Hey everybody, Coach Toolshed here, and today's video is not going to be about the allegations against Randy Pitchford being corroborated by two other Gearbox employees. No, that is not going to be the purpose of today's video. Today we're going to be talking about, coincidentally, something that ties in directly to my last video, because an announcement was made today regarding The Division 2, which is pertinent to not just that game, but to other games as a service title as a whole, and it's a problem that deals with the developers simply not listening to the community, even though they know good and well exactly what the community wants, and another situation where we see developers telling gamers how they're going to play and putting restrictions on them that weren't there before just because the developers feel like that would be better for the players, even though the players have been loud and clear that there's a specific feature that they want included, and that is matchmaking for all activities. Now, when the Division 2 was in its marketing cycle, this was something that was promised, and that is something that lots of players like to hear, because inevitably we know that when it comes to these live service titles, over time and very rapidly, you have a significant player drop-off, and players that started playing the game will fall off very quickly. So people who want to continue to play the game will either have to learn to play solo, or they're going to have to go out and look for different groups of people to play with. But a lot of times their friends will have already moved on, unless you have a very dedicated group of people who keep playing. But that is an extreme rarity. We always know, we always hear about these significant player drop-offs. Oh, Game X has lost 86% of its players in the first 2 months. Well, yeah, that's actually pretty normal when it comes to these titles, because people play through the content, they get sick of it, they move on. But the people who stick with the game, well, they like to know that they can fall back on something like optional matchmaking when it comes to certain in-game activities. Now, if you don't know, and I don't blame you if you're not following the game at all, tomorrow on Thursday, the Division 2 is coming out with this first raid. It's an 8-person raid, and they announced today on the eve of the raid that there's no matchmaking. Now, this is a problem for a couple of reasons. One, every activity in the entire game has had optional matchmaking for the 2 months that the game has been out. And as I said earlier, this was something that was included in the marketing for the game, because that is something that, believe it or not, maybe you don't see it, but it is actually a selling point for a lot of people. People who like to go solo a lot of times, or maybe people who just have one other friend that they play with a lot. They know that they would be able to get in and do matchmaking for any available mission. This is a problem that has arisen in a game like Destiny, and for years, people have been telling Bungie, hey, we want matchmaking, make it optional for the raid. But Bungie kept saying, no, 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 no. Our raid is far too complex for a random group of people. And now today, Massive is rolling out that same bucket of nonsense when it comes to the Division 2, when they did their State of the Game address today, talking about how there's not going to be any matchmaking. Now, if you want to see how the community has reacted to that, you can go and look at their video on their official like ratio. It's about 400 some odd like, and almost 800 dislike at this point, the last time I checked. So people aren't really too happy with this announcement. Now, of course, you get people down in the comments who are making the same tired arguments that I've heard for years in other games, namely the Destiny community. Now, I've said in other videos before that back in 2014, I was one of the suckers who bought into Destiny, and I thought that the game was just going to be fantastic, and little did I know how shallow and really just underwhelming that game ended up being. But one of the problems that people had was that there was no optional matchmaking with the game. And the key word is there, optional. Optional. There's absolutely zero argument that anyone can make why you can't include optional matchmaking for the people who can't form a group. Now, the arguments are always the same. And the arguments you hear from the people down in the comment sections are the same ones that the developers themselves always give. Direct you to a third-party app or a third-party website to go to look for a group. If you're not familiar with the term LFG, that means looking for group. It's typical in games like this where you have to go to a third-party site outside the game, maybe get on your PC, get on your phone, go to this other website, and try to find a group of people to play with. Now, this is fundamentally one of the stupidest things in all of gaming. If there is activities in the game that require group play, the game itself should be designed to provide access to said players. You should never, ever be directed. Like I said, the developers themselves, this is their recommended solution, is to go to Discord to find a group. Go outside of the game to find a group of people to play their game with. It's absolutely insane. This is not like you're trying to dig up people to play a game that's 10 years old. This game's only 8 weeks old, and already we're falling into the same trap. And this is something that caused huge controversy with Destiny. I don't understand why Massive would change their mind here and back off of the optional matchmaking, because I'll tell you what, now I had a group of friends, but there was only a few of us playing this game, and to be honest, we all have kind of moved on over the last couple of weeks. We got our gear, we got to World Tier 5. I'm not completely maxed out, but you know, we played through the content of the game, we did some of the higher end stuff, and we've all kind of moved away. A couple of my friends went to play a couple different games. I've been playing Days Gone for the last few weeks. I actually haven't even touched the Division in a couple of weeks because we were actually waiting for the raid to play. But then today, with the announcement that there's no optional matchmaking, well, me and my few friends, we would have to find 4 or 5 other people to play with. And even though we have a small clan, there's not enough people necessarily to always be online. I mean, it's an 8-person raid. That's not an insignificant amount. Now, Destiny has 6-person raids, and having dealt with that for a couple of years, I can tell you that is a nightmare just trying to find a handful of people. You add 2 more people to that list that you have to find, it is an absolute nightmare. I don't care if you're using an LFG. I don't care if you're using, even if you go to the Ubisoft forums to find a group, it's still an absolute pain in the ass to do this. There is no way around it. And the other thing is, just because you're finding a group on a website, they're still random people. You still don't know them. You don't know if you'll mesh well in a group. And doing a raid that takes a few hours to do, one of the key components isn't necessarily whether everyone's the best player in the world, but you need to be able to not drive each other nuts while you're doing it. If you want to end a gaming friendship faster than anything, try doing a raid with someone when you're wiping time and time again. And I know that that's the argument that a lot of people will like to use. Well, if you find a random group, coach is going to be able to complete it. That's absolute nonsense. You are just as likely to find random people that can do something just as well or better than your group of friends. That's just a fact. Everyone thinks that their group of friends is like the most dynamic players of all time, but let's face the facts. We all have bad players in our group, and sometimes you and me, sometimes we're the bad players depending on what game it is. Let's just all face the facts. And the other issue that arises when it comes to this is you get this level of elitism where you see the people who play the game every day where they're like, well, we got a group, we got 8 people, no problem. This is a hardcore activity for the hardest core of players. Well, everyone who bought the game, and they should have access to that content too. And the notion that if you're a solo player or you only got a couple of friends that play the game, that you're not hardcore enough, if you don't have 7 other friends playing the game, honestly, how many people listening to this video even have 7 people that they know that own this game? It's absolutely absurd. It's just absurd. And again, there is no single argument that anyone's going to be able to give me that's going to hold water to the fact that you can just make it all optional. It's the simplest thing, and the systems are already in place in the game. It already has the optional matchmaking for every other activity. So it's not like they would have to do some sort of new type of infrastructure and change everything around. There is literally no reason. None. The developer thinks it won't be as good of an activity if you have to. People won't have as much fun if they're not with an organized group. Well, you know what's even less fun than going into a raid and failing at it is not being able to play it at all because you don't have a group of people to play with. And again, sending people to a third-party website or an application elsewhere on their PC or phone is the height of idiocy. I'm sorry. And anyone who suggests that, I don't know how you think that it is good game design to push people away. What if someone goes on their phone and just starts, we're just going to start browsing. You stop looking for a group. I mean, it's absurd. You never push people away from the game that you want people to play. And how many times have you been, if you are someone who plays this type of games, how many times have you been sitting in a group waiting? Maybe you need a 6th person. You got 5 people sitting there and you're waiting. And you wait. I know every person that has ever raided in Destiny has dealt with this. You know I'm telling the truth here. You're sitting there waiting, and one of your friends are like, I think I got another person, hold on. And then you wait for another 10 minutes, and they're like, oh no, they started a raid with someone else. All right. And a few more minutes go by, and then you're still looking for someone to fill the group. Someone else in your group leaves, and now you're down to 4 people. Now you got to find 2 more people. So then you're forced to go to one of these LFG sites to try to find 2, let's face it, totally random people. It doesn't matter. You can be like, you must have this armor, you must have this gear, and you will definitely find people that do that. It's obnoxious as hell. But that's your only option at that point if you want to do these type of activities. Or the developer should do what they should have done to start with and provide optional options in the game. Or at the very least, if you're telling me that I have to find my own group of people to fill a lobby with, which, again, is insane, that any game would expect you to fill in your own lobby in an online game that they forced itself to be online. Like, they made an online game. They should be providing you the tools in the game to find a group. They should be creating an LFG option on their own site. They can put in whatever specifications they want. They can have options toggled on. You must be this level. You must have this type of gear. You could have all sorts of options. That should be something that the developer does. You should never, ever recommend to your players to go onto Discord to find a group. If they want to do that, the option is always there. But that should never be their first and really only option, is to go to a third-party site. It is just beyond ridiculous to expect people to have that many people available to play. And maybe once or twice they might. Maybe you catch lightning in a bottle and you can get that many people together all at once. But the odds of being able to do it on a regular basis it's ridiculous. And there's no good argument against it. There's none. I've seen them all. There's no good argument against it that holds up to the fact that you can just, again, make it optional. Sorry for the rant. I know. And I'm sorry for being so specific about a specific topic here. This was not my intention, but I saw this today, and this just dug up arguments from 5 years ago, and I just had to get it out because I wasn't doing this type of video 5 years ago. So, there you go. This is a 5-year-old argument for me. Maybe I sound like a 5-year-old when I make it. I don't know. Anyway, that's it from me, Coach Toolshed. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Please subscribe. If you want to stay in tune with the channel, head forward. And as always, hold on, I'm going to make you wait for it. I did finish Days Gone last night. I got the Platinum, and I'm going to be working on the review, so hopefully look for that tomorrow or the next day. But anyway, keep it turned to 11.